Hey team, and welcome. I'm your host, Carrie, creator of Mother Life, your destination for all things real talk and parenting. This is the IRL group chat, where we talk about the wild balancing act of pursuing careers and passions while also doing our best to show up for our kids. Join me every week as I sit down with some badass parents in my closet and we talk about their careers, kids, and relationships and all of the weird shit that comes up when you're trying to balance the seemingly impossible. Perspective. Some of the most profound moments of my life have been when I have spent time with people who have significantly less than I do. From the slums of Kibera in Kenya to extreme poverty in Ghaziabad, India, to Brownsville, one of the poorest neighborhoods in New York. I have met people who laugh freely, share what little they have without reservation, and always have an incredible story to tell. Now, as a parent, I find the power of perspective more important than ever and also sometimes more difficult than ever to take hold of. To say that I am fortunate would be an understatement. Beyond the simple roof over my children's head, ability to pay for basic necessities of life, we're all together as a family. On most days when I am in the thick of it, it can be hard to root back into that truth, to find gratitude. We are together as a family. My kids don't live in fear for their safety or their well-being. And as I am running around like a headless chicken, I can easily feel overwhelmed about being late to something or forgetting someone's water bottle in the car or whatever other kind of minutia seems to be so important in the moment. And while I'm not being too hard on myself for all of those feelings, I know where they're coming from. It is also extremely healthy for me to come back to perspective. May is National Foster Care Awareness Month, and nothing makes me stop in my tracks faster than thinking about what it must be like to grow up in the foster care system. There are around 400,000 children in America in the foster care system. About a quarter of them are awaiting adoption. These kids, imagine your kids. They're living hard lives and they did nothing to deserve it. These children are moved around a lot. They miss school a lot. They have experienced horrific things, and this system is their last resort. And just like the people of Kibera, of Ghaziabad, of Brownsville, they have a story to tell. Tige Charity is in the closet today. She is founder and CEO of Kids in the Spotlight, a nonprofit organization dedicated to providing youth in foster care with an outlet and a platform for telling their story, and filmmaking specifically, so they can tell their own stories, be in control of their own narrative. Tige also hosts a podcast, Leaders in the Spotlight, that is all about learning from C-suite leaders. She's a busy, passionate woman focused on serving her community, and she's bringing her daughter along with her, just like her parents did when she was a kid. Listen, enjoy, and head to the show notes to find out more about Kids in the Spotlight, their work, and you can learn more about how to engage with the foster care system in your area. So you know what we're going to do?
I think so. We're just gonna ask questions and hang out.
Imagine like one of our friends was like, "Hey, I want you to go on a friend date with a new pal." Mm-hmm. And like we're having coffee, and I'm like super nosy, so I'm gonna ask you all sorts of shit about your life. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. So where did little Tige grow up? Where were you born?
Little Tige was born in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Actually, I was raised in a small town called Zachary, Louisiana. So from Zachary to Baker, I think when I was going to 6th grade, we moved to Baker. And that's where my family lives today, in Baker, Louisiana.
Wow. Okay, so, and where, do you have siblings?
I do. I have a sibling, my sister, Melanie.
She's all smiles.
Yes. My sister and I are 10 years apart. She is a human resource specialist, but also a professional and certified makeup artist. So,
oh my God. Okay. We love a woman of many hats. Now,
I know, right?
Who's older?
I am. I'm 10 years older than her.
You're the older.
I'm the big sister. Yes.
So that's an interesting age gap because because you kind of got to be an only child.
I did.
And then you were sort of handed a doll when you were at like peak age of being able to realize that like she's not stealing your thunder necessarily.
Right. And when she came, she stole my thunder. But yeah.
Because, you know, like my kids are 3 years apart and it was kind of fine until my daughter started doing stuff, you know, like the babbling or whatever. And all of a sudden my son was like, this is not for me.
Right.
Return to sender, back to the hospital. I'm not about this anymore.
Right, right.
So 10 years is and same mom, same dad for both of you?
Yes. Mm-hmm. We have the same parents.
So you guys, the parents were just like, all right, we're ready to do this again after 10 years, or a surprise, who knows?
Yeah. Well, I was the surprise.
You were the surprise.
Yes, because I was born when they weren't married.
Okay.
And then they got married after I was born, and so my sister was planned.
Okay.
But yes.
I feel like sometimes it's the other way around, right? When it's like the big age gap, it's like we know we wanted this one, and then we thought we were done.
Right.
And then somebody else showed up.
Yeah, they were younger when they had me, so I was the hello surprise.
So how old were you or how old were they when they had you?
My mother was 17 when she had me. I think my dad was 21. Yeah.
And they're still together today?
Yes, they are. Thank God. They are still together today.
Wow. That honestly says a lot. I mean, could you imagine 17?
No, I can't. I couldn't. No.
I know there's kind of pros and cons to any age, right? Because it's like, well, you don't know to be worried about it in the same way, or like the things to be anxious about when you're 17. I mean, there's a lot of like practical things you're worried about.
Right.
Money, you know, how are we going to do this? But the existential things of like, am I growing a good human?
Right.
You don't necessarily have the time.
Well,
to
my
worry
parents
about
were very intentional. They made sure that I didn't make some of the same choices that they made. Although, you know, I was a surprise.
Yeah.
I was not a mistake.
I like
you know,
that.
I was here on purpose, for purpose, but having me at such a young age was not something that they would advise for me. So my parents were very, very protective of me and tried to help me avoid some of the choices that they made early on, that I didn't make the same choices, because it wasn't easy for them. And when my mother got, you know, pregnant with me, her mom was very disappointed.
Oh, I'm sure.
You know, it's like, what? I have a wait, no.
Yeah.
And I'm the first grandchild on both sides of the family. So that gave me a little extra, because I was, you know, my cousins, they already know I was the favorite.
Yeah.
All my grandparents have not gone on to glory, but I was the favorite.
Yeah.
I was, you know, so I rub it in my cousin's nose all the time.
You have to. And so you said they were protective. Does that mean, did you have strict parents? Was it like curfew?
All of that.
Yeah.
Well, I couldn't go anywhere to have a curfew. So curfew, what's that?
And what did they do professionally?
Well, my dad is a professional truck driver. He's drove 18-wheelers my entire life.
My son would be obsessed. We are obsessed with trucks.
With big truck drivers? Yes.
Honestly, if there are any truck drivers listening to this, the service you do for especially little boys by honking the horn and waving at them, like absolute, just incredible citizens of the community.
And the trucks are so fun. I mean, they're like apartments inside of these big rig trucks.
I know.
I love getting in the back of my dad's truck, because you got a bed, you got a television, you got a microwave. Like, it was like, this is cool.
The amount of internet rabbit holes I have gone down to see like what guys are eating, because it's primarily still men are eating, and like what they're cooking for themselves. People can get very elaborate with that microwave setup in there, and like the hot plates.
Absolutely.
I've spent a lot of time on YouTube. Like my son's asleep and I'm still there. Like, what's he gonna do with that ramen? Like, I gotta know.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and my mom wore different hats. When I was younger, she was a certified nurse's assistant, so she worked at the nursing home. And then at some part of my life, she was our church secretary. My mother's always had an I've had an entrepreneur spirit. She sold Tupperware. She still sells Mary Kay to this day.
Amazing.
She crochets. She sews. She's cooked, the best cook, one of the best cooks I know, especially now that my grandparents, my mama, her mom, and my dad's mom, my father's mom have all gone on.
She's now the keeper of the recipes.
Oh my goodness, yes. So she's just a superb cook. And she retired from LSU lab school. So in my more adult years, she started working at the LSU lab school.
Wow.
In their cafeteria.
Wow.
And so, yeah,
So what was dinner like at your house? Like, was it obviously your dad, I'm imagining, was working unpredictable hours or crazy hours?
Driving cross country.
Right.
Yes.
So happy to see him when he was there,
Absolutely.
but he wasn't there tons.
Right.
And so mom's holding down the fort.
Mm-hmm.
And so are you guys sitting down to, I mean, there's a whole decade where it's you and her primarily. Was anyone else living with you guys or was it just the two
my
of you?
dad. No, it was a three. I mean, my dad was there.
Yeah.
But it was,
When he was out of town.
Right. And then I had cousins. Like, we always had relatives living with us,
Yeah.
younger cousins who transitions in life, parents going through things. And we were just that safe house for other kids to come and stay. So we had a lot of kids living with us at different points. And not only kids, sometimes other families living with us, just who my parents were.
I love that. I always aspired and continue to aspire as an adult to have my house be that house.
Yeah.
That's why I'm like, I can't have like nice furniture and stuff.
Right.
Because I know I can't be the person that's going to be like, don't sit on the couch with the thing. It's like, if it spills, it spills. Like, I just want to be able to have people in my home be comfortable. If there's a problem, they can come here.
And you never know the impact. I had, not that long ago, maybe about 8 months ago, one of my friends from college sent me this long text. And she's very successful. She's married, 2 kids, beautiful home out in Texas. She sent me a text just reminiscing on a time in her life right out of college when she was in that transition, having no place to go. And she was like, I just still recall your family taking me in and the love they gave me. She said, I really don't know what I would have done or where I would have been if I didn't have that covering for that season. And she just said, I'm forever grateful. And it was random, wasn't solicited. I was like, oh my gosh.
Well,
so I sent it to my parents.
I love that. Yeah. Well, and also for your mom, it sounds like she was so used to, and your dad just so used to having people around that for them, they were like, this is just a normal.
Absolutely.
And so, you just don't know the impact that you're having on somebody at the time by just kind of doing your own thing and being in your lane and
Absolutely.
I love that. So, okay. So little Tige is not allowed to go out of the house. Okay. She is under lock and key.
Pretty much.
When you are in school, what are the things that are exciting you that you're interested in? Did you like school?
You know what? I liked being in college. I didn't necessarily like going to class and all of that, but I did enjoy being in college. And I must say, because I went to Oral Roberts University in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So, going to a private Christian school is a little different than going to more of a secular school. Yeah. But I absolutely loved it. And when I realized I could go hang out with friends and I didn't have to ask for permission, I was like, freedom. I was like, yeah. So for me, I felt, free in a sense. But I enjoyed the atmosphere of Oral Roberts University. My best friends are still from ORU. And it was just great. But in terms of being one of those students who just enjoyed going to class and was a bookworm and give it up, I'm like, okay, I'm good.
But that kind of makes sense though, right? Because it's like all of a sudden you're in this new environment and like you don't have to ask for permission.
Right.
And so you're kind of learning a different skill set. You're like, wait, how do I manage my own time?
Self-governing. You have to learn to self-govern.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
And did you start to have any inklings? It sounds like both of your parents are pretty entrepreneurial. Did you have any sort of inkling that you wanted to follow in that footsteps, or did you know what you wanted to do professionally when you left college?
I really didn't. I was figuring it out. When I was in high school, I really wanted to be a professional supermodel because I thought I was cute.
You are cute.
So thank you.
She is cute. You'll see.
So I was like, I want to rip the runway. Like, that's what I want to do. But I ended up studying accounting because I'd taken an elective in high school my senior year, and it was an accounting class, and it was so easy. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so easy. You can get a degree in this? Okay. And so I was like, let's do this. And I had an aunt who was, an accountant. It was my mom's stepbrother's wife. And so I was like, they live in large. Like, she's an accountant.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so maybe I'll just do that because I'm good at it.
Yeah.
But what I didn't realize is that everything I learned in high school, we covered in chapter 1 in my college class. And in chapter 2, I was lost.
Right.
But I decided to continue because I was the first person on both sides of my family to actually get a degree.
Huge.
So I was determined to finish. But it was around my junior year, I did go to my advisor and asked him about changing my major. And he said, well, you can change it, but if you change it, you're going to be here for another year and a half. I was like, ain't no way. No, ma'am. 4 years max. I'm out. So I ended up sticking with accounting, but really I still didn't know. No, it wasn't. I didn't think entrepreneurship. I didn't think any of that. I was just wondering, like, what is it?
Yeah.
What am I going to be doing? I knew it wasn't going to be accounting.
What happened when you got out of there?
I got a job as a claims adjuster working in workers' comp. And I was good at it. So I, got promoted rather quickly to a senior claims representative. And then I became a litigations claims representative.
God.
So meaning I just handled cases that were in litigation. Yeah. So I ended up working in workers' comp, auto insurance, homeowners insurance. And that's what I did for 16 plus years.
So she was a corporate girly.
I was a corporate girl.
Wow.
Exactly.
And during that time, were you just like, okay, there's live to work and work to live. Mm-hmm. Maybe I just do these things. They're fine. Mm-hmm. And outside of work, I'm doing X thing that's really lighting my fire. Or how was it for you? Were you sort of content or kind of grumblings of maybe there's more for me?
I always felt there was more for me. I always felt there was something missing. Always felt that, because going to ORU, you're always hearing messages about purpose. And I'm like, what is this thing called purpose? So through a few different transitions in life, from graduating college, moving back to Louisiana, buying my first home when I was about 22 years old.
Oh my God.
And then, I tried to be responsible.
It wasn't me. Pretty sure I was living on a friend's couch at 22.
So I bought my first home, and then a couple of years later, met this guy who was an actor. I was in New York visiting a friend, my best friend from college, and met this guy and was like, okay, an actor and he's cute. Yes, he is cute.
Confirmed he's cute. I did my research. He's a good looking man.
I don't care what anybody else says, but
yes, I think he's a looker.
So, and decided that I would relocate.
His name?
Antonio.
Sorry.
Yes,
Shout out Antonio.
Yay.
We agree. We all agree you're a looker. All of us.
But, and he's a jokester. So, but I decided to move from Louisiana to Connecticut because that's where my best friend was living, who I was visiting on the East Coast. So you moved to the
whitest place on earth?
Yeah, pretty much.
The whitest. And I can say this as a Jewish woman who spent some time there, and I was like, this is not for me. Do you know that in Connecticut, people of color and Jews could not buy real estate until or parts of Connecticut until the 70s?
Really? I didn't know that.
Crazy.
Wow.
This is the Greenwich, Connecticut area.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Okay, so you moved there.
I moved to Connecticut. Absolutely.
What part of Connecticut?
It was in West Haven.
Okay. All right. Maybe that's a little bit more diverse. But.
I moved to West Haven and stayed with my best friend there for about a year and a half. During that time, my husband proposed. He proposed in New York at the Broadway production of Jitney. Aww. And so we decided to get married in 2021. We bought a home in New Jersey because he was living in New York. And I'm like, New York is a little bit too fast paced for this Southern girl.
Yeah.
I remember my first experience.
You have to bring the grandma cart to the grocery store.
All of that. Exactly.
Yeah. And you have to buy exactly what you need for 2 days because that's all that fits in the cupboard.
Right,
sort of thing.
right. And my first experience in New York was so traumatizing that I was like, oh no, I cannot live in New York. So we bought a home in New Jersey and lived there for about 3.5 years and, until my husband decided it was time to go to California. And we relocated out here. In 2005, the end of 2005, we moved here. But when I was in Connecticut, I was part of a gospel group called God's Generation. So I was doing
You found
other
your community,
things.
yeah.
Exactly. And when we moved here, my husband joined a theater group teaching an acting class. And during this theater group, they were invited to do a class at an all-girls group home. And it was a weekend, so I got to go with him. And it was my first time being up close and personal with kids in foster care. So that experience alone cracked my heart wide open. I wanted to do something to give back, but didn't know what. Kept doing my corporate job because I transferred from my corporate job in New Jersey to out here to California. And I was like, there's got to be something more. Well, in 2008, we started going through a recession. The country started going through a recession. 2009, I was laid off my corporate job. So it was my first time ever in the history of my career ever being involuntarily unemployed. And being in California and unemployment, they don't go together. The two just don't work, right? And so I found myself at a crossroad trying to figure out what in the world was I going to do next. I really didn't want to get in the rat race of looking for another insurance job because I was just tired. I was tired of arguing what people's bodily injury case was worth. Like it was unfulfilling. And it so happened at the time, the church that I was attending, New Dawn Christian Village, my pastor was doing a series called Discovering God's Dream for Your Life. I was rebelling against it because I've heard every message about purpose. I graduated from Oral Roberts University. I don't want to talk about purpose. This is my bread and butter. I'm out of work. I got to find a job and I got to find something that fulfills me and make me happy. Well, one night I was just frustrated, crying, pleading with God, like, okay, if there's a thing called purpose, I need you to tell me what mine is because I'm done. God reminded me of the girls that I met at the group home when my husband was teaching an acting class with the theater group. And when that experience happened, I jumped up, I grabbed a journal, and I was like, okay, what? And it was like, give them something you love. I was exposed to the arts on a whole entire different level when I met my husband. I got to go to Broadway plays. Because he's an actor, I got to go on set with him. I'm like, this is fascinating. And I just loved that world, the creative space. And I felt like God said, give those girls that. They're in foster care. Give them an outlet to tell their stories their way, to address trauma through healing, teach them how to use their pain for purpose. Because when I was there, I could see something in those girls that they couldn't see in themselves. But I never knew that that would align with my purpose or that would unleash my purpose.
Oh my God, I have so many questions. Okay, wait.
So here we are today.
So first we have to go back to Antonio. So you guys meet, he's cute, he's an actor, he's a New York actor, you are there visiting your friend.
Yes. It's like 1998, something like that.
What about him said, I'm going to take a chance here? Because like actors don't necessarily have the best reputation as being super like stable professionally. It's a lot of uncertainty in what they do. He lives in New York. You don't live there. What was it about him and that meeting and that interaction that you're like, I'm going to take a chance on this guy?
He was so authentic and just so real in his communication. His intentions, he laid it out up front. Like shortly after we met, it's like, I'm not looking for a girlfriend. I'm looking for a wife. I'm like, well, hold on.
Antonio.
Hold on. Like, wait a minute. Not because I am like wife material. I'm wife material. And he was just very consistent. Like, I felt like he was the guy that he meant what he said, and he said what he meant. And I love that. I just didn't feel like there were any games involved. And after having dated, guys before, and you start seeing the games and all, you're just like, you're over it. You want somebody who's mature, who knows what they want. And he was talented. Like, I got to see him in plays.
That's the key. When my husband's a writer, if you are with a creative person and you don't think they are legitimately good at what they do, you're fucked. Like, there's just no way, because you have to support this person when nobody else will, and you have to tell them to keep going. So you actually have to believe they're good.
You have to, and he was good, like probably the best performer that I had seen. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like he is so gifted, so talented. And of course, all of that is attractive, right?
Yeah.
So I had the steady income. We just talked about things along the way, about goals and plans and things that we wanted to see. That's what I was going to ask. Did
you guys talk about like, what do you want your family to look like?
Yeah.
Where's his family?
In Virginia.
He's
born and raised in a small town called Surrey, Virginia.
Okay, so you had some like
loves.
You have some like sort of shared
values.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Did you guys ever talk about having kids?
Yeah, we did. And it's so funny. I probably shouldn't even say this. At one time, Antonio wanted a minimum of 6 kids. Because he's the youngest of 12.
I love it when...
He's the youngest of 12, yes. So he was like, I want a minimum of at least 6 kids.
Is his mom still with us?
No. He lost his mom when he was about 4 years old.
Oh my God. Antonio, I'm so sorry. Yeah. He's the youngest?
He is.
Of 12.
Yes.
I can't imagine what that does to a person. That is a lot of people.
Yeah. And actually, it's funny because he's doing a documentary about the family history of the Charity family, because they can date the Charity family back to the early 1600 when the settlers came over to Jamestown. So he's doing this documentary about just his family being free in Virginia. So it's exciting. He's got the trailers out already. But yeah.
Okay. So he thought, you know what? I'll be conservative. I was one of 12. We'll cut that in half. 50% reduction,
right,
or 100% reduction,
right,
we'll go for 6 kids,
right. But see, here's the thing though. So Mr. Charity says a minimum of 6, but he also wants to keep this nicely shaped woman,
right,
and for, just kind of in that, that perfect size 10. And I'm like, well, 6 kids, I'm going to pack on some pounds. And he was like, well, I'm willing to compromise. We don't have to have 6. I'm like, what? So that's the kind of guy he is.
Pack up the pounds. It's like, I'm going to need a pulley for my boobs because they're going to be at my ankles.
Exactly. So needless to say, we have one child.
Love that. Love that. So when does your child, girl, boy?
Girl,
when does she enter the picture?
She entered the picture 11 years after we were married. So she entered the picture in 2012.
Okay. So, well, now you have a young woman, so we can talk about that as well.
Yeah, she's 12 going on 13 now.
So that means that's shortly after, so you were laid off in 2009, involuntarily.
That's right.
Unemployed.
Involuntarily.
Unemployed. In 2009, you have this conversation with God that says, I know what you need to be doing with yourself, and you know what you need to be doing with yourself.
Yes.
How far into pursuing this current endeavor, which we're going to talk about, did your daughter arrive? So
I started the organization in May of 2009. It was May 6th, 2009. You were
like, okay.
I ran with it. I'm like, okay, I felt inspired. I felt the energy. I felt God gave me the grace to do it and align me with the people that was needed to help bring this organization into fruition. But she came in 2012, and I believe God had to birth in me Kids in the Spotlight, the organization that I lead, before he birthed into me Ebony Jewel. Because being older at 40, 41, when I had her, I was all in. I was like, oh my gosh, I got a baby, and I don't think I would have been able to focus on creating or starting a business with the new baby. So the business started in 2009, couple of years in, and then Ebony Jewel was born.
Wow. So I've had experience personally being sort of on the entrepreneurial side of for-profit business and nonprofit business. And being an entrepreneur in the nonprofit space is a tough gig.
Oh, it definitely is.
You are constantly scrapping, and your sort of return on investment that you're talking about with your investors, aka philanthropies, individuals, etc., is something that's hard to do, because say we're making people's lives better, we're making these kids better, we're making our community better. It's a lot harder to talk about than saying, okay, I'm providing you with 20 units of something and you're going to pay me and this is the profit.
Right.
So you're trying to do a very hard thing, and you do have a very young child at home.
Yes.
While you're doing all of this. That was so polite.
Right.
I can edit out whatever. This is very sweet. So you're trying to do these very hard things together. Antonio, as a dad, how is he engaged in all of these parts? Because I know that your introduction initially to sort of the foster world was through his work initially. Yes. And also, obviously, he's the dad.
Yes.
So what is he doing during this time to help you balance all of this stuff? Or not?
Well, I mean, no, he definitely was. I mean, working as an actor, sometimes you got to take on side gigs. So he was doing security work, but he was also the muscles for me, because the organization is a filmmaking organization working with kids in foster care. So there was a lot of movement involved. And I went to grad school in 2011 to get an MBA in nonprofit management. So he was a support for me through grad school, Antonio is super smart. I tell any and everybody this. Like, he's one of those intellectuals that's just well-rounded in knowledge, right? And so when I had papers and all the things, I'm like, I need you to proofread this. I need you to help me with this. And I spent my second semester in college in the hospital because I was having complications with pregnancy. So I did all of my presentations from the hospital. Like, I was doing everything from, the hospital. And he was there running around doing things for me. And then after the baby was born, he was there with the baby while I went back to school. But he was also there with me getting props and getting craft services and reviewing grants, even writing grants when I needed someone to, because he's a much better writer and communicator than I am. So I'm like, look, can you write? Can you? And so, yeah, he was in the grind doing as much as he could while also working, as an actor.
What were you guys fighting about?
Everything.
Yeah, because I just can't. It's a tinderbox. I mean, it's a tinderbox in the easiest of times.
Everything, yeah.
But that's a lot to have going on.
Oh, absolutely.
And
absolutely.
you're both trying to do stuff where there's no safety net. You're both building things.
Absolutely. And it's as an actor, you want to act all the time.
Right.
When you have to do security, exactly.
Yeah.
Or you have to drive, ride sharing. That's not fun. And it doesn't help your ego. It doesn't help. It's frustrating. It gets in the way, but it's a necessary means to continue to build and provide for the family. So yeah, there were times when we were just really, really frustrated. And I was very busy still building kids. It was a time when he was just frustrated because my schedule was just bananas.
Yeah.
I was always.
He's having to pick up stuff because, Yeah.
And Ebony Jewel grew up on set. She grew up with me, in the car with me, picking up craft services and running all over the place. And we didn't put her in daycare.
Yeah.
So she was with me all the time. Her first introduction to school was literally kindergarten.
Wow.
And when I did put her in a little toddler program at 4 years old, I took my computer and I sat there while she was in that little program for 2 hours a day. It was a juggle. It was definitely a lot of challenges. But when you understand the purpose and the calling, you find a way to navigate. You have to be loyal to the purpose that's on the inside of you. And it's not always easy, but it wasn't meant to be easy.
Yeah.
If everything was easy, everybody would be doing it.
That's what I tell my husband all the time when he's downstairs banging his head against a wall. Mm-hmm. Now, you love a religious educational institution because did you do your MBA at American Jewish University?
I did.
I just love that you're just like, if the world is a buffet, I'm just going to pick from here and I'm going to pick from here.
Right.
How did you end up picking that program?
It's so funny because I'd already started Kids in the Spotlight. I was taking a class at the Center for Nonprofit Management. They had a flyer about an MBA in nonprofit management. When I started the organization, I knew nothing about nonprofit management. In every area I'm working in, I was an outsider. Yeah. I knew nothing about foster care and the child welfare system. I really didn't know anything about filmmaking other than being married to an actor. I knew nothing about nonprofit management. So when I saw that flyer, I was like, I'm curious.
Useful.
I didn't care what school it was. I was just like, MBA in nonprofit management. This is what I'm doing. So I called, and it was Mr. Edward Grice. He was the associate dean, and he called, and he was like, I'd love to provide more information. I'm like, okay, great. How much does it cost? And when he gave me the cost, I was like, I'm good.
Okay, bye.
Exactly, pretty much. I'm like, I'm good.
What, crazy?
Yeah, I was like, I'm sorry. I'm still paying for undergraduate at ORU, that I graduated from almost 20 years ago. So no, I'm sorry. I'm good. But he was very persistent. He invited me out to the campus, and when I walked on AJU campus, I just fell in love. The place is absolutely beautiful. It sits up on the hills in Bel Air, overlooking the city, and I was like, oh my gosh, this place is beautiful. And they offered me a scholarship, so I was like, well, you know what? Let me give it a try. It was a 2-year program. I never imagined going back to school because I wasn't a fan of school. I was just not.
We were here for the campus.
I just need a degree because I'll be the first person in my family. I want to break the cycle. I will grind it out, get the degree, but no, I'm good. But because that was attached to purpose, I was focused.
Yeah.
I was determined. Ended up getting
you
the
knew
David.
what you were using it for.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I ended up at when I graduated, getting the David Lieberman Award because they all knew what I'd gone through. I had really good grades. I did my whole second semester from the hospital because my dean gave me permission.
crazy.
My fellow classmates Skyped me in. There was no Zoom at the time.
Yeah.
I'm always telling my age, but
Dun,
exactly. There was no Zoom.
I think
They would
Skype actually just RIP'd.
Are you serious?
I think it literally just a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I'm
Skype is no
sorry.
more. I know.
Yeah.
It was a cornerstone for
But
so many of us.
it served its purpose.
Yeah.
For the time, it served its purpose. So my friends would Skype me in. My classmates would Skype me in. My teachers allowed me to do my presentations from the hospital via Skype, and I grind through it. And so after I graduated in 2013 from AJU, they hired me to come back as an instructor, an adjunct instructor, so that I could teach nonprofit management because I was one who started a nonprofit from ground zero with zero funds. And they saw something in me and invited me back. So I taught for a couple of semesters, just the foundation or the fundamentals of creating a nonprofit.
So much work.
Yeah.
Now, talk to me so is it Ebony Jewel one? Like, does she go by both?
We call her both, but it's not hyphenated. It's
Okay.
it's two names. Jewel is her middle name, but
Got it.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful name.
Thank you.
But so Ebony, now you are obviously raising your own daughter. She is at a formative age. I mean,
Yes.
the hormones, the feelings,
Yes.
these shitty kids being shitty to each other. Like, she is peak age for all of that stuff.
Yes.
Now you have your opportunity. You said your parents did stuff differently with you than, their experience because they didn't want you to have a kid at 17.
Right.
They kept you under lock and key.
Right.
Now it's Tige's turn.
Yes.
You've got your own kid. She's starting to be at that age. Cell phones, social media, How do you reflect on how you were parented and how you're parenting her?
Yeah. I mean, one of the things I honestly do is I constantly pray for wisdom. I'm like, God, please give me wisdom to raise a child in today's culture because it is different. But I enforce a lot of the things my parents enforce. I'm very selective of who her friends are. I'm constantly monitoring what she's watching on social media. She stays mad at me because I refuse to let her have Snapchat at 11 and 12 years old.
I feel fine about that.
Exactly. But the thing...
Sorry, Ebony.
Right.
I'm on your mom's team.
Thank you. I'm going to make sure she listens to that.
Yeah.
But and instead of just saying no, I explained to her why it was a no attached. And then I called upon our community of adults and aunts, because she's got play aunts in California. I called them. I was like, Ebony wants to do Snapchat. And even my sister. Exactly. I'm like, what do you think about that? And the overwhelming response was absolutely not.
Yeah.
And I let them explain it to her as well so she could hear it from others' perspective and not have to just rely on mommy saying no or daddy saying no.
When you were growing up, was it mommy said no, daddy said no?
Period.
No
Explanation mark.
Yeah.
Period.
No explanation.
No, I don't care what anybody else got to say about it. No,
Yeah.
it's no. But I just really want her to understand the no is always for your good.
Yeah.
It's never a no just because I'm trying to punish you or we trying to punish you.
Yeah.
We see things that you don't see. You've been here 12 years. I've been here 50-something years. Like, I've experienced things that you have yet to experience.
Yeah.
So I'm looking and filtering things through a different set of lens that you can't. So we get the attitude.
I
we
mean,
get
I
the
bet you're at
things.
peak attitude age right
Oh,
now.
yeah, absolutely. But we talk. I try not to let her just storm off with an attitude. I really insist on unpacking it.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the day, what we say still goes.
Yeah.
But I try to at least make sure that there is a level of understanding there. And also, when I was growing up, I got spankings.
Right.
Like they took the scripture literally, spare the rod, spare the child.
Yeah.
So I got spankings and Ebony doesn't. Like, that was just one thing, we're in a different culture, different time. I don't spank.
Yeah. People say that, like, breaking that cycle is a really confusing thing because it was such a key part of growing up.
Yeah.
And associations you make between right and wrong and how to get someone to just listen to you because they're not listening.
Right.
And so in those moments when, you're reprogramming your own brain, really, was it a very easy thing to be like, no, we just don't do that here? Or was it in your head just be like,
Ooh, I'm like, a good belt will fix this right now. Oh, I know it will because it fixed it for me. Oh, a good switch will fix this. So yeah, that was that time, where I felt that a spanking would do some good.
Right, because you just get so, I mean, by the way, we do not endorse any sort of corporal punishment here, but there is that thing where in this new generation of parenting where everyone's trying to figure out the balance of like, I want my kid to respect me because I respect them also.
Yeah.
I want my kid to listen to me because I have their best interests at heart. I'm not doing these things selfishly.
Right.
And also, kids are still kids, so they don't want to listen. And then you get this impasse where, like, they aren't listening. And then you're like, well, now what? Like, now I'm at a wall. Like, now what?
Right.
Is it the timeout? Is it TV time going away? Yep. Or, and they will just look you dead in the eye and say, take away my TV time. And you're like, okay, I guess I'll take away the TV time.
But it is taking away some of the things they love. Like, she's at that age now where that phone is attached to her hand, and we will take that phone away. And we'll let you know when you get that phone until we can see a change in behavior. So, punishment is effective.
Consequence,
exactly. One of the things that my husband started telling her all the time, it's like, you get to control the decisions you make, but you don't get to control the consequences of those decisions. So when you're making decisions, think about the potential consequences, because you don't know what that consequence might be. So just think about the risk, think about the consequences. And communication helps.
And now she's at an age where she can process that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then we have her in a community of people who share our values, who share our belief. So she's around other kids that, parents sort of enforce some of the same things.
Exactly. She like when she's like, my mom's being like so difficult, she won't let me do this, and then her friends are like, yeah, my mom too.
Exactly.
That helps. So she's not in an environment where it's like, oh, everybody else is doing this.
Except for the Snapchat. Like, a lot of her friends from school have Snapchat, so that's why we're still navigating that one.
What are they doing on there?
She claims it's just for the filters, but I'm like, there are other apps that you can use filters. You don't have to just use Snapchat.
What is happening on there?
I don't know, and because
it's still like the disappearing message thing, right?
Exactly. Right. That's the part. And once you're exposed to certain things, you're exposed.
Right.
You can't be unexposed.
Yeah. So
we're very careful with trying to make sure we know exactly what she's watching and who she's communicating with. And we're fighting for her to be just a teen or preteen.
Yeah.
Just to keep life simple and not overwhelm you with all of the ugliness that life can bring.
Is she into the performing arts? Or
gosh, yes. She just won Best Performer at her school's competition.
Ebony.
Yeah, they had a state competition. Her choir won Best Choir, and she won Best Performer out of all the choirs, and it was a thing. Yeah, I almost jumped over the bleachers. I was so excited. I was like, "That's my baby!" But
so she's really into it. She's kind of found the thing that she's very passionate about.
Yes, but she wants to be. There's a few things she wanted to be. At one point, she wanted to be the CEO of Kids in the Spotlight. When I grow up, I'm gonna be the boss of Kids in the Spotlight. Then it changed from that to I want to be an attorney. Now it's I want to be a judge presiding over all things foster care. So she's very, integrated in the foster care community because of the work that I do. She's been around, this community since she was a baby, and she see the needs, and she really wants to give back in that way.
This is actually a perfect segue because I am so curious about fostering, the foster system.
Mm-hmm.
There's a woman who lives in our neighborhood, and she exclusively fosters newborns. And she's had like 9 or 10. She just found her like forever baby. Because I was like, how do you do this? You literally get these kids from the hospital, and you're snuggling them, and then all of a sudden they're gone one day. Like, that is
heartbreaking,
that's devastating.
Yes.
So in your work with Kids in the Spotlight, do you spend a lot of time with the foster families as well? Are they involved, or is it more just like the foster kids show up?
Well, it's a couple of things, right? when we started out, we were working with kids in group homes. So there wasn't
There
really
was
a
no
family
yeah.
involved. There may, you have visitations. So every now and then we would get to see a parent or talk to a parent. With our older youth, they do bring their family members to our big event because our program culminates into an annual Kids Film Awards.
Like
so
the
for those who
Oscars.
exactly, it's our version of the Academy Awards. So where we celebrate the films that they created through our program and give them awards for best actor, best screenplay, and all the things. And they get to invite their family and friends. So we meet them at that event. But we've had parents to thank us. I think one of the most, for me, shocking experience I had was, I think back in 2013, we were doing a screening at Sony, and one of the kids from the group home wrote a story about her telling her guidance counselor that her mom was doing drugs and she had twins at the house. So DCFS services stepped in, they removed her, they removed the babies, and it was just, oh my gosh. So she created that, she wrote that film.
Wow.
Of course, we produced it, we screened it at Sony, and it was just one of those tearjerker, films. And afterwards, we were on the carpet and we're celebrating her and all the filmmakers. And she's like, Miss Tige, I want you to meet my mom. I say, yo, who? I was like, what now? I was like, oh my gosh. But her mom was in tears. She was like, thank you. She was like, thank you. Seeing your life displayed on a big screen gives you perspective that you may not have had before. I mean, her mom was clean. She wasn't with her mom yet, but her mom was establishing that relationship, having visitation rights and things like that. But her mom saw how healing it was for her daughter to be able to tell that story. The mom experienced a level of healing just to be able to see what from others' perspective and her own daughter's perspective and experience that caused a shift to happen. So that was probably one of those moments where I was like, oh my gosh. But it was also a moment that I really understood the power of storytelling in a different light.
Yeah. No, I mean, that is also credit to that mom in terms of the humility it requires.
Oh, absolutely.
To be able to come to something like that.
And that's the beginning of your healing journey, when you can admit.
Well, this is the thing that our generation, I think, is begging our parents is please just tell us you were wrong about some shit.
Right.
Please just we know you were doing the best you can, but can you not generationally gaslight us into thinking that everything you did was fine and we're the problem for having feelings about it?
Absolutely.
Can you just
own it?
Own it, because you can get past so many things if the other person's especially your mother is saying I see how I hurt you and
Absolutely.
I'm so sorry.
Absolutely. I'm constantly preparing myself for that now. I've got little kids and I'm one day I'm going to fuck them up and they're going to be adults and they're going to say what you did hurt my feelings. And I already now I'm just say you're sorry. Yep.
just say you love them and you did the best you could and just say you're sorry. Future self, please listen to episode whatever number this is.
Right.
Just say you're sorry. Because that's all they need to be able to move forward.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. Something very powerful about owning when you've caused trauma or disappointment in somebody else's life. Absolutely. And I even practice it now because I don't always get it right now.
No.
And when I realize I missed the ball or I snapped on something because my mind is somewhere else and you came in with this and you got the reaction that wasn't intended for you, I'll go back now and say, you know what, baby girl, I am so sorry. My mind was over here. I was dealing with something at work and you didn't deserve the way I responded.
Oh my God.
And she's like, thank you, mommy. So I try to practice that.
The way that that lets a kid just let go of the shitty feeling in their stomach.
Yeah.
We've all had that. The way that just lets them move on. And it's hard to do. I often say to my son, this is the first time I've ever had a 4.5-year-old.
Absolutely.
We're learning together here, buddy. I didn't know. I'm sorry. I'm trying to figure it out. I haven't been here before.
Communication. It's effective if we know how to use it.
Yeah.
It is. And I used to, in every stage of my kid's life, watching her do certain things, and my husband and I'll get frustrated by certain things. I'm like, yeah, she's been a 5-year-old. It's okay. You've been a 6-year-old.
That is having somebody
like a 12-year-old.
If you're partnered or not partnered, somebody on your team who can be like, this is developmentally appropriate behavior.
Right.
Because there's so many times where it's you're being such an asshole right now.
Right,
and then one of us will be like, It's actually because he doesn't have a frontal lobe developed
Right,
yet.
exactly.
It's like, oh, right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Of course, that's why you're acting
You're
like that.
acting
right?
like a 5-year-old right
Yeah,
now.
yeah, exactly. You are acting like such a 5-year-old. Oh my goodness. Okay, so now the last thing I just want to get to is a little bit more on kids in the spotlight and how it all works. You know, we have people who listen to this all over the world, but mainly in the U.S. and a good chunk in, you know, the L.A. area.
Yeah.
In terms of how it works. So foster kids come to the program. How do they find out about the program?
Well, initially, it was because I would go out and meet with various agencies and bring the program. We're 16 years into the organization now, so a lot of it is word of mouth. Youth are bringing their other friends, and we also serve opportunity youth, which means that you may not be in foster care, but you're in an environment where you could not afford, or your family could not afford an arts program like Kids in the Spotlight. But it's a lot word of mouth. But we partner with DCFS. We partner with Guardian Scholars programs at universities. We partner with CASA, which is the court-appointed specialist advocates. Other organizations send youth to us because we've been doing the work for 16 years.
Or on the weekends?
It's all the above. We provide our program during school hours. We provide our program at our studio. We provide our program at various organizations' locations. Like right now, we're at Inner City Arts out in LA. We're at Gardena High School. We do our Next Level program at our studio in Van Nuys, Louisiana. In Van Nuys, California.
Going back to Louisiana.
That means we need to start at Kids in the Spotlight in Louisiana. Planting that seed, dropping the seed. But yeah, so we do the program through various different locations, or at various different locations. So yeah, word of mouth now. And we still have social media. We have a very strong presence on social media. So people hear about us and they refer young people. And again, young people refer other young people.
Yeah. It's like, this is a safe space. It's a place to have fun.
It's the best compliment too.
Right,
other young people bring in
who
other
doesn't
young
love
people.
a referral?
Right.
Now, you spend a lot of time with these kids, obviously, you all do, and you're talking to them. What do you feel like there are any high-level things that they would want their parents to know from the conversations about what they're doing? I know that's a big question.
That is a big question.
But, you know, I feel like, because I think there's this misconception that when a child enters the foster system, it's because they're then going to be adopted, or that they're then going to never
be
are
reunited with their family.
It's the reunited with the family part that I think some people don't appreciate, is that like often kids are taken out of situations that are not safe for them, but there is the opportunity for reconciliation to go back with their family.
Absolutely.
So a lot of what you're doing is also giving these kids skills to communicate when they're back in an environment with their families again.
Yeah.
So do you feel like there's anything you hear from them or that they're missing, or, you know, do they talk about their parents at all or their families at all when they're in this environment? Or is it kind of like we're focused on not thinking about that while we're here?
It's a little bit of both. I mean, they're telling it in their stories. We're producing content. We're producing films. They bring that energy and those experiences into the stories that they write. I remember years ago when we did our program at a group home called Maryville, there was this one film called Suesville. And the premise of Suesville was, from the child's perspective, instead of DCFS removing us from the home, how about DCFS focus on removing the parents, educating the parents on being good parents? And then if you remove us, let's create a world where the parents have to fight the foster parents to gain us back. Like, it's just, they're so creative in how they express and tell stories, right?
Yeah, it's like, why are we getting in trouble for other people's mistakes?
For other people's
Why are
mistakes.
we having this traumatic thing of having to put our stuff in a garbage bag and
Exactly.
leave? Because,
Exactly.
Yeah.
And poverty is, I think, one of the number one reasons why kids end up in a system, because their parents, you know, but parents neglect them. Parents, you know, rely on substance abuse to numb their own pain. And then you have foster youth who then have their own kids, and the cycle continues because this is the environment they were raised in. This is what they know, and they want to be loved. So they have kids, and because of poverty, sometimes end up repeating the same cycle over and over and over again. So our program is here to really disrupt that cycle and give them the tools to be able to heal and tell their stories and create a different narrative. We tell our kids all the time, you get to write the end to your story.
I love
We
that.
tell our kids all the time, you can do great things because you were created to do great things. We tell our kids all the time, use your pain for purpose. Your pain does not have to create a pathway to incarceration, homelessness, trafficking, and all those things we know a lot of youth in foster care experience. Take advantage of the opportunities that are before you. But oftentimes, there are so many programs happening, these kids don't even know about it.
Yes.
So we took our program a step further. Instead of just creating this opportunity for them to tell their stories, we purchased a production studio where they get to go through workforce development through an earn as you learn model, meaning let us help you on your career pursuit. Because in the filmmaking industry, every job you can think of, you can do in the filmmaking industry. Just sit and watch the credits after a film.
Yeah.
All those jobs, right? 20 minutes of just watching credits. Those are all jobs that these young people don't even know about. So we're exposing them and we're trying to give them the tools to be efficient in just a number of jobs. And then we have a youth service department that sort of helps create this individual career pathway for our youth. So whether it's going to college for some or going into, a vocational trade, we just want them to be well-informed decision makers, but we want them to be exposed to all of the possibilities and equipped to do it. So we like to train them in-house first through our workforce development program. We're currently working on being a certified apprenticeship program as well that we get to do in our house at our studio, where filmmakers rent space from us. And then we link youth that have been impacted by the system to those professional projects that's happening at our studio. So again, they're earning as they're learning. So before we send them out, we just want to make sure they are well prepared to go out and do the job.
Just like a parent.
Just like a parent.
Yeah. Getting
Absolutely.
their kids ready to, we have 3 jobs as parents, right? We've got to keep our kids safe, teach them right from wrong, and prepare them for the world.
And and that's exactly what
Shout out
we're
to
trying
Lisa, a former guest. That's what she's constantly telling. She has older
I
kids.
love that.
Constantly telling. So now I'm constantly telling my kids those 3
Yes.
things. That's my job. If you don't like it, I don't care.
Right.
That's my job.
Exactly.
Tige, this has been such a wonderful conversation. Where can people watch the shorts that have been created and the content that's been created?
Well, we screen them at our end of the year Kids Film Awards. That's for the past couple of years. It's been at Paramount Studios. We submit to various film festivals. We are actually looking for distribution right now on a major streaming platform because we have over 100 short films so that people will have a place to go and watch the films. Right now,
they're looking for distribution.
Yes, we're looking for distribution, but we really want distribution on a platform that's already established.
Sure.
We've been approached so many times with new platforms that want to stream. That means now we got to help market and get. We really want a built-in audience if we can. Exactly. So we're calling on the Netflix, the Amazon, the Hulus. Like, hey, y'all, we got a whole division of youth, films created by young people, mostly system-impacted young people that are telling their stories their way, and the content is amazing because we partner with industry professionals to produce these films. So our youth are working alongside some of the best in the business, like a Robert Munich, who is the executive producer of Empire, and a David Mahmoudi, a Grant Housley. Like, we're working with industry professionals that are bringing their talents and skills to pay it forward. That's... Well,
in the show notes, we'll try and put some links. I'll follow up with you guys and ask for links of anything you want to share with our audience and things they can check out and how they can get involved. But this was such a wonderful conversation. It's just wonderful to see. You said, okay, I grew up here. I love and respect my parents. I'm taking the things that I really like that they did in my youth, and I'm bringing it and how they influenced me in terms of service and being part of the community.
Absolutely.
And I'm bringing that all the way forward to today, both what I'm doing professionally and how I'm raising my kid.
Absolutely.
And I'm leaving the stuff that doesn't serve me, including spanking and belts.
Right. That part. Yeah, my parents I always felt like I got to see love in action. So because I got to witness love in action, I get to live and practice love in action.
Love in action. Well, this was such a treat. Thank you so much for being here.
Hey, thank you.
Team, I need your help. If you love it here, please like and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Subscribe to the Substack for full access to this episode's show notes and join the discussion. And of course, follow me on Instagram at mutha.life for a daily look at all things mother. Thanks for listening. Be sure to tune in next week for another Chat in the Closet. This podcast was produced by Mother Life, music by Ronan Landa. See you next time.